If you are passionate about languages, same as myself, but are not really sure what you can do with it, what jobs you can find with languages, this video is for you. Coming up. Hello and welcome back to the Freelanceverse. Over the years I've heard many jokes and rumors about studying languages. The consensus seems to be that you can't really find a good paying job if you study languages. All you can do is becoming a teacher. That seems to be all you can do with it. Or even worse, you end up being a graduate without finding a job and you end up on social welfare or something like that. However, in my opinion, that's not the road that you have to go down on after a languages degree or a linguistics degree. Quite the opposite, actually. There are a lot of options you can do. And I wanted to make this video to give, maybe if you're a language graduate or a linguistic student, want to give you some options, what you can do. Some of them are more obvious, of course. Some will be a bit more niche and also harder to obtain. When I was researching and brainstorming for this video, I actually came up with a lot of ideas. I didn't think I would come up with so many, but I have like maybe 15, 20 ideas. So I needed to kind of compile them for this video, and I decided to make categories. So I will have categories, present them on the screen, and then have the jobs within these categories for you. One thing I want to mention before we start, I didn't include jobs like, you could work at an international organization because they need people with foreign language skills, etc. That's not what I mean. What I mean is really jobs that have languages as a focus, so really language specific jobs you can do. So let's get right into it. So the first category is called the obvious category. So as you can imagine, the number one job in this obvious category is teacher, language teacher, right? Be it in a language school, be it in a normal school. Maybe you move abroad and you can teach your native language there as well. Or you can even be self-employed and be a freelance teacher and teach, especially now in these weird times, you can teach online classes as well, right? There are lots of options for teaching. Next option is translator and interpreter. For those of you that don't know the difference, translators, they deal with texts, so they translate one text to another text. Interpreters translate spoken speech. So for example, in a conference, you would have a conference interpreter who people have this kind of earplug in their ear and you translate at the moment live to their ear. There's also another version of interpreting which is not live, but that's just kind of a recording of maybe a movie or a presentation or something that people also have an earpiece, but it's pre-recorded. Then there are other options in this obvious category that sometimes merge with being a translator. In my case, for example, I do a lot of proofreading, subtitling, editing, so that's kind of all in one field. If you can establish yourself as a translator, you most likely also do the other options. But you don't have to, so you can be an exclusive editor, for example, or proofreader or subtitler. And the last one I included in this category is a very niche job opportunity, but yeah, why not? It's a sign language interpreter or translator. So sometimes there are TV programs where down in the right corner you see a person doing sign language simultaneously to the live TV. Maybe you've seen it before. In communities where people live with hearing disabilities, for example, you can be a sign language interpreter as well. Moving on to the next category. This category I named spoken words. So the number one job in the spoken words category is a voiceover artist. The job of a voiceover artist is dubbing the speech of a movie or a TV show, for example, into their native language or into another foreign language. Especially in Europe, in a lot of European countries, dubbing movies is still very prominent. So it's also in Germany, for example. So German voiceover artists are very busy. There's a lot of demand for it. You will definitely need more education after a languages degree, but it's a very good basis to move your career in this realm if you want to go to digital media and become a voiceover artist. The languages degree is definitely a very good start. Number two is Respeaker on the list. Now, Respeaker is not very well known, I've noticed. What it basically does, have you ever wondered when you watch live TV and you can enable subtitles and immediately the subtitles are generated and usually quite good, so you probably think that's not done by a machine, which it is not, that's true, it's done by the Respeaker. So how this works is there are people in an office with a headset watching the live TV and they are basically re-speaking what the live TV says. And the speech-to-text tool immediately puts the text that they speak on a screen, and then they have a few seconds to edit the text so that it's perfect or near perfect, and then they send it to live TV. And the last job I included in this category is a speech and language therapist. What this person does, it's a healthcare professional who deals with people who have language disabilities or just form of issues with speaking or reading. Yeah, you definitely need more education after a language degree or a linguistics degree, but as before, it's a perfect base. So then you can just do an extra course, or maybe you go into the medical field if you want to become a therapist, a licensed one. This is definitely a path to go if that interests you. Next up is what I call the written word. Written word jobs include, for example, copywriter. If you're a very good writer, but you don't want to be an author, or you don't want to write fiction, but actual things, then copywriter is the perfect job for you. It involves writing the whole day, basically. So how it usually works, you get a briefing from a client that they need this kind of text, maybe an article, maybe a product description, whatever. You negotiate with them about the price, and you deliver a polished text that they can use on their website. Next is a technical writer, which is kind of similar to copywriter, but it's very technical. So usually you would write manuals for products or actual in-depth descriptions, etc., or maybe even contracts if you want to go in the legal field. That's a separate education as well, a technical writer. So after a languages degree, you would probably specialize in technical writing and maybe do a master's in it or something. It can be a very high-paid job, but also sometimes a bit monotone. So you really need to be very interested in technical issues to enjoy this job. An obvious one in this category is journalism, of course. There are actual journalism degrees. So if you come from a language degree, maybe you have some catching up to do compared to journalists in the research department. But anyway, one of the most important things for a journalist is how well their language skills are, right? So especially in the native language. So you really need to trim your native language to near perfection to be a good journalist, and also not only grammatically but also rhetorically. It's very important how you write, the style in which you write, right? Next up on the list I have a blogger. Of course, nowadays you can make large amounts of money with a successful blog because you can place advertisement in it, right? I say nowadays, it's already a bit outdated, I think, with the video format, but still, blogs are popular. Blogs are very popular, especially in the ways you can promote them with Instagram. There's so many options to promote your stuff now. And blogging is the perfect thing to do next to your normal job, to wait until it's built up large enough to make it your full-time or your part-time job. Right? And the last point already mentioned, author, of course. If you enjoy writing fiction, or if you enjoy writing non-fiction in a very specific domain that you think people would be interested, start writing your books. Especially ebooks are quite easy to publish. You don't really need a big publishing firm to back you on that. You can usually publish them on your own and can produce a nice revenue stream. I know a couple of translators who wrote books about how to be a successful translator, right? And now they just have this revenue stream coming in every month, basically, from the royalties. The next category I call linguistic jobs. So these are really linguistic specific things that are very much focused on the written or spoken word. Number one, of course, is a linguist, an academic linguist. So if you want to go into academia, you can do research on linguistic patterns, speech patterns, whatever, political debate, how people say things to convey their meaning. There are so many things you can research in linguistics. And a language degree is the perfect base for it. If you do a bachelor, then you would go on, do a master's and a PhD. Next up in this list, I have librarians. A librarian is basically in charge of collecting and organizing resources for libraries. You can be employed in a public library, a private one, in a school or a museum even. This is very much book focused. So if you love books, if you love pages, if you love thinking about one word for hours and hours, librarian might be a good fit for you. And even more in depth, if you really have a fascination with words, with languages, with how, like, etymologies, where languages come from, how words are formed, maybe a lexicographer career would be suitable for you. What this person does is they are in charge of editing and actually writing dictionaries. So you would be kind of a keeper of language, a keeper of words. which can be a very satisfying job, of course. I'm not exactly sure about the intricacies, how it works, how you would work as a lexicographer, but that's basically what they do. They are authors and editors of dictionaries. Then we go into the more technical realm of linguistics. So if you're very fascinated by IT, for example, this was also something I considered and might still consider in the future. You could become a computational linguist. What this person does is basically dealing with natural language processing, NLP. So how to make sure that machines understand the natural language of humans and how to process them, right? So what you would mainly do is program and develop computer systems that understand human language. Well, of course, you need an IT background as well for this. So a language degree or a linguistics degree would be the basics, and then you would build on that to become a computational linguist. Another very technical area of work, you could be a forensic linguist, right? Forensic linguists are people that use linguistic cues to solve certain problems, for example, crimes or lawsuits, etc. You use, for example, symbolism, you use accents, you use written things like the writing patterns or speech patterns to solve certain crimes, certain cases. In order to become a forensic linguist, you would need some kind of law degree and on top of it. So again, language linguistics degree basics, then you go into law and you can become a forensic or legal linguist. And the last category I want to mention are language related jobs. So these are kind of a bit more detached from language as a focus, but still very much in the industry. For example, you can work in a translation agency, right? This is actually what I did before I became a translator. I worked as a project manager in a translation agency. This way, you're not exactly working with languages yet, but still you are very much involved in the industry. So if you plan to then become a translator, it's the perfect option because then you already know people in there, right? And also you don't need to go on, of course, if this is what you like. If you like to work in the area of languages, but not as a language service provider per se, it's perfect for you to work in a translation agency and work your way up there. And last but not least, you can work in a language school or in a company that offers language schools or language exchange, etc. There you would usually work either as a teacher, but that I already mentioned, or maybe as a facilitator, as a salesperson, as a project manager, just getting people to learn languages, go abroad, expand their horizon, etc. And so you work very much within the language industry, but not really as a language service provider per se. That's it, that's my list. As you can see, there are quite a few options. I think I mentioned between 20 and 25 jobs in here. So I hope this is helpful. I've seen a couple of these videos on YouTube and they usually are not really in depth. They just tell you, yeah, you can work anywhere where people need people with language skills, but that's not really what you're looking for with these videos. That's why I wanted to make this very in-depth. And as always, if you choose to be a translator, you need to practice as much as possible, and you can start by translating this video into your native language. You can just click add subtitles in the corner and it will come to me and I will put it live and of course credit you in the description. Please make sure to subscribe to this channel if you enjoyed it. It's really going well and I enjoy to make these videos, so it's good to have kind of a feedback if you enjoy watching them as well. Good luck with finding your path in the language industry. As I've just proved to you, there are many, many different options, so you're not stuck to be a teacher if you don't want to. And if you want to, then good luck becoming the best teacher you can be. See you next week. Bye bye.